The only thing less able to fully die than an entire genre of movies are the think pieces and hot takes about whether or not a genre of movies has died. And yet every couple of years we have to do this dance anyway about horror, romance, westerns, whatever. Currently on the block is the superhero movie, largely because the current incarnation of the genre is popular enough that plenty of people in Hollywood are getting sick of being asked about making them, and because clickbaiters can only run so many happy headlines about a thing before the fly strip gets full and they have to change flavors to negative to keep the traffic going. I really have no interest in engaging the question, mainly because nobody actually wants it answered. The question, will superhero movies die, is actually film journalist code talk, for I am not particularly interested in covering this genre anymore, so when can I expect it to no longer be the dominant topic of conversation? Not that I don't sympathize, I also write about video games, and it'd be nice to know when we're no longer talking so much about what's to be done with overpopulation among Eumetopias tubatus and Alligatoridae mississippiensis. The latest round of this was touched off by Steven Spielberg, stating that he believes the genre will sooner than later go the way of the Western, which led director Zack Snyder to opine that Spielberg was probably right, except for the trio of superheroes he's currently directing 3 movies about. Now, far be it from me to try and out-film history Steven Spielberg, but I would point out that it's an unfair comparison because the huge generational changes in the public perception of an actual period in history that ultimately led to the decline of the Western genre probably doesn't apply to fictional comic book universes. For example, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has made audiences all over the world fall in love with a guy named Captain America, even though those feelings are not always mirrored in regards to the actual America these days. That's kind of impressive when you think about it. Anyway, I mean, hell, remember this genre died before and didn't really die? Remember that? When Batman and Robin came out and killed the entire genre? Yeah, that time around, Death lasted a whole 13 months, and then Blade came out and was a huge big hit, and then X-Men came out and was a huge big hit, and then Spider-Man came out and was a massive worldwide phenomenon, and now here we are. So that's that. No, the genre isn't dying, that's not even an interesting question, move along, done, mic drop. But you know what is interesting, is the question of whether or not the genre is even going to slow down anytime soon, or if that's something that just isn't going to happen anymore in the age of multimedia franchising. See, while westerns didn't die, they did decline from being a massive part of the film industry's output to something we only get a couple of every few years, and I wonder if that level of change in terms of cultural presence is even possible anymore, for superheroes or for anything else. The fact is, the digital age has hyper-accelerated the life cycle of things coming into and out of popularity almost to the point where a movie franchise can go from biggest thing ever to over to retro cool again in between its own sequels. Look, I'm 34. I got to live half my life to this point in the age before the internet, and I sometimes feel like my generation is the last one that's going to experience nostalgia in its true uncut memories of beloved things lost to time form. I once asked a group of mostly 18 to 20-year-olds if they already felt nostalgia for stuff they grew up with like Power Rangers or Pokemon, and the response was largely, "What do you mean nostalgia? Those things never went away. Even their TV shows are still on, with new episodes in the same ongoing continuity. I mean, shit, forget the superheroes for a minute. Look at Star Wars. Star Wars isn't even a genre, it's a single franchise that might as well be one. There hasn't been a good movie in this series since 1983, but it never really went away in terms of toys and comics and all the other cross-media business, and now we're about to have not only a new Star Wars trilogy, but also a world where at least one new Star Wars-related movie is in theaters every year, along with new comics, TV shows, books, and games unified to a degree that'll make the Marvel continuity feel like kindergartners playing telephone. And even without all that, will we ever really be able to say that Star Wars is done for even a little while when Disney is keeping an entire Star Wars World theme park running 365 days a year in Orlando? It's honestly starting to feel to me like the real model for popular media going forward in the age of franchises and multimedia is The Simpsons. No, really. Remember, when The Simpsons first appeared, it immediately became one of the biggest entertainment institutions on the planet, generating a glut of mostly Bart-themed merchandise based around merchandising to kids while remaining an untouchable high-watermark TV for about a decade, but then gradually became merely incredibly popular instead of omnipresent and not necessarily appointment viewing, even as the merchandising ramped up to higher levels than before, largely by shifting to the adult collector market. Now, especially in the wake of how big a deal that marathon turned out to be last year, hindsight reveals The Simpsons, which has been declared dead multiple times, as a phenomenon that's gone through peaks and valleys in perception, but has never gone away culturally. And even once it ends, and it will eventually end, the ubiquity of this property in the collective conscious, and you know, that one cable channel that pretty much exists only to show Simpsons reruns, means that it's probably never going away. It's just going to hover forever as a permanent element of the pop culture oxygen supply in between the inevitable movie sequels, reunion specials, and reboots. And I really feel like that's where Marvel, DC, Star Wars, and who knows what next are all going. Anything remotely popular is just gonna hang around now. The internet has basically destroyed the concept of entropy in art and entertainment. Nothing goes away, nothing gets forgotten. In 2025, is a new guy playing Tony Stark, or did the Iron Man armor just keep changing hands through consistent continuity? That's where we're going. Is that bad? I don't know. No one does. It's an entirely new cultural paradigm with no real historical precedent, so it should be exciting if nothing else. But for now, Sorry, our superhero movies dying film press people, in a couple of years, your outlet will still be frantic for coverage of a Squirrel Girl casting announcement, and the guy or gal on staff who doesn't have to make any calls to the research department because they grew up with a copy of the official handbook under their pillow, they're probably gonna get it over you. So my advice, pull up Wikipedia and start making some notes.